basically what I know about this is that some guy's son got stabbed by the urban youth, and he apologized and it's actually saying diversity is actually a good thing, even though it's literally diversity is what actually killed his son. Now let's get into the
It's truly
video.
awful.
Oh, hi Sargon. That caught me off guard ever so slightly.
It's truly awful, right? And I hate everything about this story, and yet it's a really common story. We'll go through a few examples just because there is just a sacrifice of young people going on, not just young people either, but going on the altar of diversity at the moment. And the old people who survive them are just told by the government, they've got not just like a nudge unit, but they've got like a community engagement unit and all that sort of thing. If you don't say that actually everything's fine, then there'll be hell to pay. There'll be race riots. There will be violence between communities. There'll be civil war. Who knows what they tell them, right? But you know that they're telling them something, because there's no way so many goddamn parents can watch their children be murdered by the diversity that's been brought to the country and be like, well, I mean, I'm just glad I'm not a racist. It's just mad, right? So this is the murder of film student.
It kind of reminds me of last year. I did multiple streams on it that have now been lost in the ether about Carmelo Anthony. And I feel really bad because this is not the first time I've done this. I can remember the murderer's name, Carmelo Anthony, but I can't remember the actual poor boy that was murdered by him, because that's just how it works. Austin Metcalf, thank you, chat. Thank you. The story behind Carmelo Anthony is insane. He's a great example of socioeconomic factors is absolute BS. I mean, we have the statistics that show even urban youth that are on the higher end of the scale, that are wealthy, making over 100K in a year, still have higher crime statistics, including felonies, than even poor whites do. And he's the prime example of that. And then the fact that his family was able to raise so much money for him and then buy a new car and a house and all this other stuff, and they were paying him out to be the poor victim. Oh my god, yeah. So I know that's technically why I remember Carmelo Anthony more than I remember Austin Metcalf, but it still makes me feel bad every single time. Austin Metcalf was at a track meet, and Carmelo Anthony was sitting underneath a tent, and he was asked to move. Carmelo Anthony refused to move. Austin was like, no, you gotta move. And then Carmelo reached into his backpack and stabbed Austin. And then Austin died. Because Carmelo Anthony wasn't supposed to be there. Apparently, he went to a whole different school on top of that, too. Like, he was just skipping school and just was trying to hide from the rain underneath the tent and refused to move out of it, even though he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to be there. Austin asked him politely the first couple times to actually move. There was no reason why Austin should have been stabbed and died. It's a horrible, senseless death. And Carmelo Anthony and his family basically got away with it scot-free. Like, I think he got out, like, on bail. It's on house arrest. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong here, because it has been a hot minute since it's been really talked about, and I kept up with the story. Not even self-defense, and just get off scot-free like that is abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. And then to tie it back to this situation here in Britain, so then the family of Austin Metcalf, they were divorced, and there's the mother and the son, and then the father. And the mother and the son, you could tell based off their interviews, they were holding back tears and a ton of anger. A ton of anger. They knew exactly what the problem was, but they did their best to kind of keep it together. But then the father came out and said that he forgives the poor boy, and it's not about race, and all this other, like, gobbledygook statements of absolute BS. And when the mom and the son were the brother were asked about it, you could tell that they were pissed off, but they had to bite their tongue about it, because they're like, what do you mean we forgive the murderer? It was random, out of the blue, unnecessary. But then the father even tried to, like, go talk to the parents of Carmelo Anthony at a press conference to show his support and solidarity. Then he got kicked out too. And it's just like, okay, well, this car was kind of a bitch now, isn't it? Like, there's almost so much sympathy I can have for you. Like, it sucks that your son died, but if you're defending the murderer and trying to help the family, and even the family doesn't care about you because you're white and they're black, my sympathy is basically dry. Like, it's just a drop. It's just a drop, right? I feel so much more worse for the mother and the brother that knew exactly what the problem was and couldn't do anything about it. Yes, the judge let him out on bail, and they've already said the trial will not be televised. Okay, I'm glad that I remembered somewhat correctly, especially since I have a memory of a goldfish.
Finbar Sullivan, he was at Primrose Hill in London, and he was practicing testing a new camera. And for some reason, for whatever reason, 4 black men decided to start a fight with him. They knocked him to the ground. One of them stabbed him in the leg, and he bled to death.
Jesus
And
Christ.
it's just awful. It's just awful. It was filmed on mobile phones. I'm not going to play the footage, obviously, but it's just this lad, just 21-year-old lad, just got a new camera, so because he was a film student, and it's just like, what absolute savages. There he is with his parents. Just, I'm sure he's a lovely lad, and then these fucking savages just murder him for no reason. I just honestly.
Well, there is a reason why he was murdered. The thing is, it's not exactly YouTube friendly to admit why he has been murdered. But I'll say it anyways. It's because he's white. It's simply just because he's white. That's it. It has been statistically proven over and over again that only whites have an outgroup preference. Every other race has a strong in-group preference for their own kinds. It's insane. Absolutely insane. And so we try to treat everyone equally because, under a perfect world, it should be that case. You should treat everyone equal. You should be able to hold hands and sing kumbaya and all get along. That would be amazing if that was the case. But it's not, because all the other races hate you simply because you're white, and they will see you as an easy target because you're not going to fight back. If you fight back, it's racist. Even if you do actually fight back and you're okay with being labeled racist, well, then you're going to be the one actually arrested by the police. It's happened time and time again. I know there's a case recently in, I believe, Michigan. I might be a little bit wrong on these details, where some, urban youth decided to rob this guy's house, and they broke in. He shot at them. I can't remember if one got injured or died, but regardless, the police arrested him and now he's being charged. And the judge is saying, "Oh, well, you did it to yourself. You brought it upon yourself." They broke into his house, was robbing him. He's self-defense. Like, you never know the robber is already breaking in, which is already a crime, and they're stealing, which is still another crime. And then you never know what the robber's going to do to you and your family, because if they're already committing multiple acts of crime right there, and if they, feel like they're in, like, and because it's such a dangerous thing they're doing, a lot of them are actually violent and will hurt you just to get their way. Like, you don't know what they're going to be doing next, and it's your right to defend your property. And there is something called castle doctrine, which I've heard that's actually the case in Michigan. He's in the right a million times over, yet the judge is like, "Oh, well, it's his fault, he brought it upon himself." Why? Because he's white. And because the robbers were, you guessed it, the unseen in the night, shadows, that randomly appear. And he's at fault. It's a horrible, inverse way of how the justice system works. And in Britain is a million times worse, because they actually do have hate speech laws. Thousands of people have actually been arrested for memes and other statements that they've said. It's absolutely insane. But if you fight back, you're at fault. You're the white person. You should know better. That's awfully racist of you. Oh, and yes, the judge said an unlocked door or window's invitation, so it wasn't deemed self-defense. What the fuck? An unlocked door or window is an invitation. So if you just forget to lock your doors at night because you're tired or the children are screaming, or you just, I don't know, like, you just don't do it because, once again, you're human and you make mistakes, and it's just invitation to be broken in. That's just, how is that an invitation? Okay, I'm gonna be glowing very, very hard. Uh, very, very hard.
I'm just, and it's every day something like this happens. Every goddamn day something like this happens. He'd entered the park, joined other friends for, was allegedly surrounded by the group of attackers, and then they just beat him up because they could, and one of them stabbed him in the leg. An unnamed man, by the way, stabbed him in the leg. and then he bled to death. And it's just like, right, that's just awful, right? I mean, I don't know how many kids these folks have. What if this is his only son? What if this is her only her only son? It's just so awful. I just can't get over how awful this is. Lives ruined, right? It's lives constantly being ruined because of our commitment to diversity. But what does he come out and say? He's proud to live in diverse London. It's just sickening. Sickening. Honestly, trust me, right? If this were me and my sons, this is not what I would be saying, right? So the 65-year-old father of Finbar Sullivan spoken out against racist reactions to his son's death. Oh, right, okay. Chris Sullivan told the New Journal he refuses to allow his son's name to fuel hateful rhetoric, insisting he's proud to live in diverse London and that Finbar will be remembered as a beacon of peace and love.
It's been a year. I know I already brought Austin Metcalf as an example, but like, I'm pretty sure his father said almost the same thing word for word. I would have to definitely go back and check, but I'm like 98% sure that Austin Metcalf's father said something basically word for word. It makes one think that maybe there's some sort of unseen power working in the background, orchestrating this kind of stuff to make sure that people aren't actually aware of the real problem at hand, and you must suffer for our diversity's sake because it truly is our strength.
Right, so, I mean, this awful thing happens, ruins your family, kills your son, and the first thing you do is spout the rhetoric that led to this point. I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, at some point, you would think there would be a point where even the most committed wokist would be like, right, okay, but this is getting the people I love killed. But apparently not. I mean, he does, God knows, he's proud. The hate should not be directed at minorities. It's the government and the Met Police. They're the ones to blame, not immigrants, not black kids.
Well, I would agree. It is the government to blame because the government is the one that's allowing all these immigrants to come in. I really hate the subversion of language when it comes to immigration. It's one of the clearest examples of it. Immigrants. Immigrant means somebody coming from a foreign country into your country and assimilating that way and actually going through the rules and regulations to properly become a legal immigrant in this case. That's why we have the term alien, which has been basically completely taken out of the language because alien is supposed to be someone foreign who are coming in and breaking, which we watered it down to be illegal immigrant instead, and now we've gotten completely rid of the illegal part and just go with immigrant, or in a lot of cases for British politics, migrant instead. It's a huge watering down of it, all encompassing every person who's ever come into the country, so there's no distinction between legal and illegal. And I say this as someone who doesn't actually like illegal immigration either, but there is a difference between the people coming in on the small boats on a daily basis. In fact, I think it was yesterday or the day before, there was the highest record for this year so far with 602 people coming in on the small boats. The highest day so far this year in Britain. And one day, these are illegal people, but they're allowed in because the government's not stopping them, right? And they're still getting all these benefits. They get stuck in these super fancy hotels. There's a video that was being passed around of them just like this, such a nice hotel. It is so fancy. Like houses don't look as nice as hotel is, and you just see all these shadows crawling around and eating the food there. And then recently moved them to the military barracks because the hotels were getting harassed by the locals to stop having them, and there's so much pressure because everybody knows where they're staying and where they're coming from. It's completely unfair, and they shouldn't be here in the first place. So yes, it is the government's fault. It is the Met Police fault for letting this slip by. They're not even minorities. See, that's another aspect of subversion of language I dislike. Calling these the people who are 80% of the world's population, right? Because white people are only 8% of the global population. Whites only 8%, okay? Then we got the Asians mixed in, and there's like lighter Asians and darker Asians, so but they're still Asian, right? But still, Africa has a significantly Nigeria alone has a higher birth rate than the entirety of Europe alone, okay? Including Russia. There are vast more than there are white people. We are the minority. I hate calling them minorities. I hate it so fucking much. I hate it so fucking much. We are the minority. We only have a very small sliver of the whole entire world that we can live in. Only because we feed them, wait till we can't afford food anymore. Well, we'll sacrifice ourselves to save the poor children starving in Africa. There's a rumor that there are teams of people that have coached parents not to make the murders about race. Is pretty sick. I'm 99% sure this man was coached to say what he said. More than likely, yeah. But it doesn't change what he said is horrible. And if somebody came to me and wanted to coach me, I tell them to go suck my fucking
plus-sized ding-a-ling.
Well, the thing is, I think that the people who actually did the murder are the ones to blame, right? I just really think that proximally, directly, these people are the ones to blame. And if you think they're not to blame, then what you're saying is they are not rational agents. They are not people with agency. They are not actors in their own lives or in the world around.
Well, if this was in the American legal system, their IQ is probably
too high,
charged, and so therefore they'll get some sort of insanity case or something along those lines, and then be back on the streets again, because that's literally our argument for most of
upstanding individuals
in America, where they're unaware of what they're doing, and they're out of their mind, and so therefore we can't actually arrest them. What we do with them instead? We put them back on the street. What do they do next? They still murder people. Wow. Who could have guessed?
And if you believe that, is it responsible to just allow them to be wandering the streets? Like, we allow people to be free in society because we assume that they are rational actors and they are able to take responsibility for their own behavior. And if you don't think that, then the implications of that are quite dire, aren't they? I mean, what you're saying here, friend, is essentially they're not in control of their own thoughts or behavior.
I mean,
and actually it's someone else who's in control of them. And therefore the Met Police and the government. I mean, indirectly, the government are responsible for this. To be honest with you, the Met Police probably bear the least responsibility for this. Sorry. But if I hear anything to the contrary, I'm really going to go to town with them, because Finn was above all proud to be a Londoner, proud of this multiracial, wonderful place we are in. It's just suicidal rhetoric. It's completely suicidal. It doesn't matter where Finbar's killer comes from, his race, colour, creed. It's got nothing to do with that. It's a class thing, and it's been created by the government. You don't know that. You don't know why they did it. You don't know anything about this. And the fact that you're like, how can I make this about the rich versus the poor? I don't think it was that, actually. I think what it is these guys saw your son as a skinny white guy who probably wasn't armed, probably was an easy target, and actually thought this will be fun. This happens really regularly, I'm afraid. I'm sorry that this has happened to you. Genuinely sorry this has happened to you.
Every single time, specifically in Britain, that this happens, they always bring up the class part. I mean, it's not even because like the Labour government's in charge. It's also happening in the Conservatives too. But they always want to make it about class, right? It's all about essentially communism and Marxism that it boils down to. They want to divide people based off class lines, that they can make it about class lines instead. Then that divides people even more, and it helps them makes them focus on what's not actually the problem, and that way they can use their anger elsewhere. Now, you would think that they make it based off class, then wouldn't people get mad at politicians, right? But that's where the politicians come and be like, oh no, I'm better than that. I rise against the class differences. I am egalitarian. I stand for you, the pleb. You know, I am on your side of things. I sympathize with you. And then they just keep on voting for that, charlatan instead. And the issue's never resolved because it's all divided based off class when it's
socioeconomic.
And yes, if you make it about class, then the solution is redistribution, i.e. more socialism. Yep. Which means that the government can tax you more, and you get worse off as a society, but the government gets richer, and so the politicians get their pockets stuffed even more, and they don't have to worry about actually solving the problem because then they can be like, oh, we just need more money, so we just tax you more. And the problem still never gets solved. They just tax you further. Things get worse. They tax you even more. Things get worse. And eventually it'll collapse. But we're not there yet. We're close, but no cigar.
But there is a preponderance of knife crime in this community. This isn't your son is not a lone case, and it's I mean the government indirectly for allowing these communities to be here, sure, but the ones to blame are the people who wielded the knife. Just that simple. And like, look, it's just mega boomer. It's like, oh no, the community or the color or the creed or the person. None of that matters. It's like it's a class thing. It's just so awful, man. It's so awful. Mr. Sullivan argued that young people have been abandoned, unable to access housing, employment, or university education, leaving them without hope for the future. You know, I think these guys didn't have much in the way of consideration for university, right? And I think they probably do live in a house, probably taxpayer funded. But I think that you just don't know what kind of people that you have in London, in certain communities, and you assume that just like your community, that just like your son. And I don't agree. He also criticised media coverage for exacerbating the problem with harmful rhetoric around knife crime. I really blame the media. It's the media that's making these kids carry knives, is it? It's the media doing it, is it? These revolting newspapers keep on saying knife crime, knife crime, knife crime. Kids are going to carry knives. No. You're putting the cart before the horse, the cause before the effect, or the effect before the cause. They're carrying the knives, right? When I was young, the media wasn't going on about knife crime all the time because we weren't carrying knives. Kids now are carrying knives because in this wonderful, diverse, multicultural civilization, there are some communities that habitually carry knives and commit knife crime. And it's not all of the communities, and it's not all of the people in those communities, but it's a significant proportion of those communities, for some reason, engage in knife crime. We can have a discussion about why you think that might be, but imagine what it's like when you're 20 and you can't walk down the street without looking over your shoulder. Well,
and keep in mind, too, Britain has strict gun laws. It's not completely illegal to have a gun, but they do have strict gun laws. And they've been cracking down on knife laws as well. There was a case years back at this point where an old man had a butter knife in his pocket. He just put it in there on accident, completely forgot about it because he's just an old man. And then he got arrested. The police actually arrested him for having a butter knife on him. A butter knife. You get stabbed fucking shit with that, other than, well, butter, because that's what it's made for. It's dull as fuck. But he got arrested for it, an old white man, just for having a butter knife. It was after Starmer got into power that they started regulating also the Japanese swords, like katanas and other blades that they have. Okay, fake weep here. They started regulating those kinds, even though most of those are just fake and for ceremonial purposes, just for the weebs. But they also went after those too because people were actually using the real versions of them. But when I say people, I mean certain communities in certain areas, because once again, they've been going after all these different knives. Even if people don't have a gun, they're going to use a knife. If they don't have a knife, then they're going to use a bat. And if they can't have a bat, then they're going to use a rock. And if they can't use a rock, they're going to use their fist. These
fellow human beings
are biologically inherited to be
silly and carefree.
So no matter the amount of knife crime you talk about or gun crime, whatever the case is, they will always find a way to hurt people if they so wish. And this honestly technically applies to humanity as a whole, not even certain communities, if we really wanted to go about this route. But statistically, it's very specific ones, which is why, like Sargon said, they never had talks about knife crime when he was younger because they just didn't commit those crimes.
I mean, your son was literally that person and was murdered in that scenario. And you're sat there like, somehow this is the government's fault. Somehow this, directly this is the government's fault. Somehow it's the media saying kids carry knives, therefore the kids want to carry knives. No. It's because of the multicultural society. It's not good, and it's not set up. solve any of these problems. But it's conservative government cuts to youth services. There are going to be youth services around. If only they had more youth centres. That's not it, man. That just means that stabbings would happen at youth centres. They're not safe on the street.
Yeah. Every single time a youth center comes up with these certain communities, it always seems to devolve into violence and drugs and various other less than ideal extracurricular activities that these youth services tend to provide.
No matter where they go, even in Primrose Hill, the bastion of British middle classness, good lord. Yeah, you'd think that'd wake you up a bit, wouldn't you? You'd think that would wake you up. You think you'd be like, oh, my libtard beliefs brought me to this place. But as I say, it tells you a bit about him. He's an artist and a writer who established Soho's legendary WAG Club in 1982 and more recently founded Artists for Gaza. So he's part of an old scene, right? In this area, there was an old bohemian scene of libtard art types and, fundraising concerts with Paul Weller and Suggs and all that sort of thing. Like this, I'm reading a book in the 1960s at the moment, and it talks about the genesis of this scene and how, like, you've got like loads of artists and loads of musicians and all these sorts of people who, it's only like a few hundred people really, but they're all quite influential people and they hang out in this particular area. But anyway, so the point is he's a part of it, right? He's been a part of that.
One, I can't get over the whole Artist for Gaza, that fucking nonsense that he apparently funded. What do you mean you founded Artists for Gaza? In a whole different country, in a whole different part of the world. And you want to do a whole Artist for Gaza campaign. That's like the top tier champagne socialist thing I've probably heard in like a week. And two, this is everything's scripted, like we've already discussed, right? A lot of what he's saying does sound very scripted, especially the very beginning part with the commonalities between what he's been saying and the father of Austin Metcalf. But I would probably say this father, at least in particular, is definitely okay with saying this script because he's actually probably a true believer. Like, even though his son's been murdered, which I would hope, like, I would imagine, right, that your son being murdered would cause so much tragedy, such a great wave of depression that I feel like suffocating, and like you yourself are about to die from the sheer amount of sadness that you're going through. I would imagine that's probably what it feels like to lose a son, especially randomly out of the blue when you just went to the park to test a new camera that you got him. A father that does a whole Artist for Gaza thing, he's got enough ideology pumped and poisoning his mind that even with this script, since he is a true believer, that helps negate that feeling. That's why he's actually okay with not actually addressing the issue. Because he might actually still be mourning for his son. It's the boomers and the Gen X's that were the first children to be receiving this propaganda, which this guy sounds like he's a boomer. If he established the club in 1982, and based off the picture earlier, he looks quite old and actually like a boomer. It's very likely that he is literally a boomer, or at least older and a Gen X. So he's first in line for the progressive army and its propaganda, completely one-shotted. And that has disastrous effects upon your psyche, and that probably has mitigated any of the mourning that has occurred for his son, because he now has to toe the party line. He now has to say the right things. He now has to defend the things that he has voted for and supported his whole entire life, even though it cost him his son.
And so he's just, oh no, it's default back to ideology, right? It doesn't matter that my son's been killed. What matters is that I go on a political attack on this, but not against the people who caused it, because of course I wanted this. I wanted my city to be as diverse as it is. And so it's just everyone else but the people who wielded the knife who are guilty. Everyone else but the people with the knives. He went on Good Morning Britain, and this is what he had to say.
He was like the hub of this social network of people. Like his friends were saying, when they go out with him, everybody knew Finn. He said, Finn. And he just cared for people, That was the main thing, I'd say. and it was very, very evident, you know. I'd like it if he could come an emblem or a mascot for this fight against hate and fight against kids like having no life.
Well, I think he's going to turn into an emblem of what happens when diversity overcrowds your borders and
enriches.
civilization. I mean, he probably won't, because this happens on a daily basis. If you actually pay even a modicum worth of attention, you can find articles about this that are released every single day in both countries where a white person has been stabbed and or
Hugged.
by a
Future scholar, lawyer, doctor, and engineer.
not exaggerating. Every single fucking day this happens. He's just the daily one. He's just a couple days old, right? You know, April 17th is when this interview was posted on Twitter. So, you know, there's been a few more white people who's been stabbed since then in Britain. Don't worry about it. It's just normal. So he won't really become an emblem of anything, but his father is definitely an emblem, a sign that even if your son dies, ideology is way more important than your son's life.
I want my son, who was murdered by the Diversity of London, to become a mascot in the fight against hate. That's not likely to happen, really, is it? Just he is kind of an emblem, but for the dangers of diversity. Like, these gangs of kids don't respect you. They don't care about you. They saw your son as an easy victim and they killed him. It's awful. It's just awful.
Yep. And the thing is, if this father were to go to the court and try to defend the black kids, or, you know, try to like meet them in prison, though they're probably not going to go to prison, or try to go to some charity thing where they're at, whatever the case is, kind of like what Austin Metcalf did for Carmelo Anthony's parents. If you were trying to reach out to him, he would probably get stabbed and murdered too, because there have been multiple cases of that as well, where the white guilt kind of kicks in. They try to forgive the murderer for what they've done, even help them out in a lot of cases by giving them food or a place to stay, various things like that. And then next thing you know, a few weeks later, they're also dead too. There's no sympathy there. You cannot have sympathy for these
misunderstood persons.
The point, I think, that is most important, and I keep saying it, is that these people are not like you and that you don't understand them. Right? Your libtard beliefs. I mean, look at this. Look at his room here. Look at the way he's dressed. Play beret. Like, look at all the art. It's like, oh, I'm some sort of libtard artist. Look, that's great, man. But these guys are not like you. They weren't like your son, and you don't understand them. Anyway, this is not the first time, obviously. You remember the Manchester bombing, arena bombing, where the government basically coerced everyone to sing Don't Look Back in Anger, which Noel Gallagher was not happy about, by the way. Noel Gallagher's not Don't Look Back in Angering. Noel Gallagher is actually based and sensible on all of this, by the way. Same thing about Lee Rigby's murder, where they were like, oh, come out and say that don't use your image to argue against Black Lives Matter protests, because he was murdered by two black African Islamists. Jihadis on the street, and they were just standing there with his blood in his hand after his head cut off, being like, yeah, we did this and we're proud of it. And you have the Nottingham attacks, where you have this maniac, Valdo Calocane, who everyone's like, oh yeah, he was absolutely mental. He had like schizophrenia or something, and he went on a stabbing attack. But of course, don't have hate in your heart, Vigil told. Again, the mums, the dads, the brothers, the sisters, for the ideology of multiculturalism, have got to be like, well, these things just happen. Don't hold hate in your hearts.
Because all this seems so coordinated, I do wonder if the government's actually paying these people, right? Like, what gun do they have to these people's head to say this and do this? I know, like with the father that we just talked about with the son who just got murdered for testing out his camera in the park. I do believe in that case he's a true believer based off his past and, you know, the art in his room, his beret, all this fun stuff. But for everyone else, maybe there is a little bit of true belief in them too because of the white guilt and how they've been indoctrinated. But at the same time, with all these scripts sounding roughly the same, how they all act being so the same, how they turn into such a big event every single time when it comes to something like this. There has to be some sort of funding, right? Or some sort of threat by the government. Or maybe a mix of both, depending on how the situation, I guess. But I just cannot comprehend how you can look at this and look at all these other different cases and be like, yes, don't have hate in your heart. Don't look back in anger. I'd agree with the government official that, yeah, I'll say this script, right? I'll say this script. I'll get on that stage, and then I would probably go into a tirade about how it's all these
upstanding gentlemen.
I'll bring the pictures of like graphs and statistics, and they'll have to like peel me off the stage within the first like 30 seconds. Guys, fuck this shit. Fuck this.
It's completely suicidal. The ideology has brainwashed them so thoroughly that for some reason, foreigners, strangers, interlopers, murdering their own children isn't enough to break them out of it. It's just terribly just sad. Honestly, it's genuinely sad. Like, I just can't imagine how difficult it is. I mean, maybe they latch onto the ideology as all they've got, but it's the thing that has brought them to this place. But do you know who's not doing that? This Phil Coates here is the brother of one of the people that was murdered. I think it was this chap here. Yeah, Ian Coates on the right there, yeah. His brother is just like, pfft. Ian was brutally stabbed several times and left to die alone on a cold Nottingham street. I can't and never will forget or forgive, and neither will Ian's children or grandchildren. That's the right attitude. Mm-hmm. You know, we're definitely looking back in anger here, folks. Definitely. This is unacceptable. And I'm terribly sorry for the people who lose family members, children, friends, whoever over this. But we absolutely have to be able to identify what the source of the problem is here. And ultimately, it's the ideology bringing these people here. There are so many people here just shouldn't be here. Just shouldn't have been here. They have a picture of the killer in this one. But they just shouldn't have been here. And why are these people here? Why are these savages here? Because, I mean, if you're just going to pick on some random kid in the street and then stab him to death, yeah, I'm going to call you a savage, actually. And anyway, I guess we'll leave that there. It's just, I guess this particularly affects me because I'm a dad, right? Like, this could be my son.
Well, the reason why they're here is simply just to cause chaos. Is simply just to tax them more, so they can get more free housing and other benefits from the government, while the average, actual, genuine citizen suffers. It's all about the Great Replacement. It's not a game theory. It's actually real. I know Sargon knows this, but it's. I think it's actually beyond ideology, like he's saying, and maybe he's just saying this to keep his YouTube safe, because I know he's talked about it multiple times. But it's beyond ideology. It's literally the government creating and manufacturing all these problems and punishing those who do try to speak out and talk about it. Like I said, all the thousands of memes arrests, the thousand of people like Tommy Robinson, even though he's a bit suspicious to say the least, and a little bit too close with a country in the Middle East, has been arrested like a million fucking times. Though there is definitely a case that he might be a little bit of a stooge, but we're not going to get into that. There's so many people have just been arrested for going to these protests as well. Like, they cracked on any sort of discontent for the government. It's not simply just ideology. People of Britain are held hostage by their own government, and then they have these
peaceful refugees
coming in and murdering them like mercenaries. It's beyond ideology. Beyond ideology. Yeah, there's some true believers, but there's actual genuine fear behind that too. And for the record, we're the same. We're very similar in the United States. Not completely, because we have Trump in power, but it's a very similar case with us. And our demographics are far worse. Our murder rates are far worse. It's horrible what's happening to the United States. It's just we have vast amounts of land. We are such like a big country that for us, what happens in Detroit is so far away from somebody who lives in Kansas that they can't, like, they hear about it, but it's basically like a different country to them. So the states are split up in a way that they have powers, where there are different rules between the different states. It's kind of a different world entirely, versus Britain's a tiny little island, and it's much closer to home to them because of that factor.
Be my daughters. Like, this just really bothers me. That these people are just so disconnected with what it actually is to be human, the actual importance of their own relationships, because of the multicultural ideology. Oh no, diversity is good. Diversity is good. That's been my whole life, is diversity is good. And it's like, okay, man, you killed your son.
Well, that's a fucking way to end it. Good job, Sargon, for that. Yeah, diversity is so good, but congratulations, it killed your son. Ends it there. Because that's exactly what has happened. Exactly what has occurred here. Absolute fucking terrible, and yet this is going to keep on happening. This is going to keep on happening more and more until someone comes around and changes it. It's not going to be Trump. I don't know who is going to be in the United States. Hopefully Rupert Lowe can be the one to change it in the UK, but that's going to be another 3 years before 2029 comes around, and it's not going to be overnight because of how bureaucracy works. But somebody has to, because the current system is causing decline, and if we don't fix this soon, well, we're not going to have a Western civilization left.
Hateful content detected.